Okay, so we've got a harder, more complicated question here, 4 marks. So let's have a look what it says. The gender code for the tourist is stored in column K. So let's have a look at column K. There's the gender code. We can see 2s and 3s. 2 is for female, 3 is for male, so that's clear. The amount each tourist spent is in column L. So there's column L, we can see how much each tourist spent, so that makes sense. Insert a function in cell E4, obviously that's the cell here next to question 4.4, to determine the total amount spent by all female tourists. So before we look at what function to put in here and how to answer this question using the spreadsheet, we need to think about how we would actually answer this question ourselves if we were having to do it by hand. So let's think. In this case, we've got a female, so it's 2, so we have 31,185. We've also got a female here, because it says 2, 30,072. What would we do with these two numbers? We would add them together. So obviously, if we're using add on a Excel, then we need to make sure that we're using a sum function. So these two cells would be added together. We wouldn't add this cell because this is a 3, and we're not adding the males. So we're not going to add everything. We're not going to sum everything. So let's have a look at what options we have when we do that. So we know that we're going to start with sum. Now just put sum in there now, and you can see that there's lots of different sums here, but there's one that says sum if. Adds the cell specified by a given condition. Now we have a given condition, so let's double click on that. Let's click on f of x, and let's have a look at this function arguments to see if we can use it to help us. Now the first thing to notice about this is there are 2 ranges. We've got a range and we've got a sum range. So if we actually click on next to the sum range are the actual cells to sum, if omitted the cells in the range are used. Now this means which ones are we going to add up? Well, we're actually going to add up the cells here. These are the amount of money. So we need to go all the way down. Be careful here. Don't go through selecting only the females. The Excel function is going to do that for you. So we can leave that, and we've definitely got the sum range correct now. Okay, so what's the range? Well, the range is where the computer is going to look, or where we're going to direct the function to look, about whether the number in column L is one that we're going to add together. So let's have a look at that. We need to look in this column, in column K. That's where we need to look and see. That's what we did. We looked there to see whether they were male and female, so we must give that information in the function as well. Go straight back up to the top. Now, what's the criteria? The criteria is the condition in the form of a number, expression, or text that tells you what cells should be added. Well, what cells should be added? It should be the female ones, and the females are 2. So we just put in a 2 here, and then that should be job done. Just a word on Excel functions. There's 4 marks here. So if you actually look at this, you can see, if we look at f of x, we've got the name of the function, which is probably going to give us 1 mark, and then we've got 1, 2, 3 things inside the function. So that's where our 4 marks come from. Quite often, if you're unsure about what type of function to use, you can take a good guess by having a look at how many marks there are and using that to kind of work backwards from the functions that you know to one that is complicated enough to possibly solve that question.